All right, what do you think is going to happen to the housing market?
I think it'll just cool off, but I don't think it's going to go down like it did the last time.
Right? I don't think so either.
Yeah.
Well, people are hoping that it goes down, and I'm like, do you realize how far it'd have to go down now after how high it's climbed?
Yeah.
I don't know how it could, unless there was something catastrophic.
I don't know why it did what it did, but it did.
I don't know why it did, but it did, but it did.
Shefsky here, and welcome to Fantasy House. This is the world's #1 make-believe real estate podcast. I love doing this show because every week we get to go on a guided tour through a different person's imaginary dream home. They're always pushing the limits with mind-blowing houses and weird technologies and magic and all that cool stuff. They make weird, unique rooms. And, I ask them, I'm like, hey, could you come up with appliances and technologies that we don't even have so they can solve your very unique problems? People do that. And really it's just good old-fashioned creativity and silliness. Fantasy House podcast is NSFW. It's not safe for work, although we're super Mr. Rogers inspired. It's a lot more of an adult Mr. Rogers experience. So it's raw, it's honest. We talk about sex, drugs, people's bathroom habits. Sometimes people take us to dark places, and we're all about authenticity and really reigniting that carefree, playful spirit we had when we were 4 or 5 years old. Just fearless exploring of our imaginations and ourselves. You remember that? I love that. I feel like we need that as adults too, and that's what I want to facilitate with Fantasy House. I want to inspire people to explore that again, get that feeling, that little fire lit inside for story time and imaginary make-believe time, and just being ourselves. And it really is a great time. In Nathan Hurd's episode, he has a zero gravity room, so you just go in the room, flip a switch, and you're floating around. Jade Catapretta has a lazy river going through her fantasy house that has sexualized dolphins in it. Fifi Dosh has a private hot tub on top of a private mountain in her backyard. John and Tom from Chad Goes Deep, their fantasy house is actually a cloud that floats around like an RV in the sky. So they can go anywhere they want. Nick the Plumber, he's got a live studio audience. So when he's with his family and he drops the punchline of one of his dad jokes, he gets a real applause. Joel Jimenez loves to cook, and by the way, is an amazing cook. But in Joel Jimenez's fantasy house, he doesn't want to clean up. He hates cleaning up. Loves to cook, hates cleaning up. Well, he's got a kitchen that washes itself. In episode 94, Mike Ishak's kitchen is just a portal to his aunt's Indonesian kitchen, so he can have ringdang anytime he wants, which I've never had ringdang in real life, but we had it on his episode imaginarily, and if it's anywhere as delicious as it is fun to say, it's got to be good, right? Ringdang. Jeremiah Watkins did a Halloween episode, and his toilet paper dispenser is a mummy that you just unwrap and wipe your butt with. Nat Baymel doesn't even have a bathroom. Speaking of bathrooms, he simply has a wizard. Anytime you need to go, the wizard appears and just makes your bowels empty. Just abracadabra, poof. Or poop, poop, poof. So cool, right? Every episode is brought to you by me, Jon Shefsky. I am your local Southern California realtor. Not just a fantasy realtor. No, a really real realtor. And I would love to help you with anything real estate related, whether you're thinking about buying a house, selling a house, maybe you're interested in why I love multifamily apartment buildings, any of that. I would love to be of service. And if you're thinking, John, I don't care about real estate at all, that's great. But I know you know someone who does. And you got to let them know. You got to say, hey, before you go making any moves, you got to talk to my boy, Jon Shefsky. He's a really real realtor, and he would love to be of service. And I really would. And even if you're not in SoCal, I can still help you because I have a referral network all over the country with some fantastic agents, and it's growing all the time. So check in with me. Let me know, because I got agents in Nashville, in Chattanooga, Austin, Texas, Boise, Idaho, Phoenix, Arizona. I got you covered. And like I said, that list is just growing. So just think of me when you're thinking of real estate. Be like, I'm going to hit Shefsky up before I do anything. Just send me an email, fantasyhousepodcast@gmail.com. I'd love to be of service or help in any way. Super Thanksgiving stoked. My grandmother Flo is here with us, staying at my house for a few days for the holidays, and she is down to podcast. I'm pretty excited. This episode is also brought to you by Flo's Death by Chocolate. Available anywhere fine ice creams are sold. Now, in the words of the great Angelo Bowers, let us do this!
We came to California, and I was advised to wait
Yeah.
by some people in my office so that prices would come down, but they never
They
did.
never, you still waiting? Oh my God,
Thank
Grandma.
God.
That's the funniest thing.
We bought a house and we were able to buy a house. We were able to afford, homes. And then the last house we paid cash for because of the housing prices, but they were great. I mean,
this was like either the last house you mean like when you guys left Chino Hills and you moved to Arizona. Yeah, because you sold your house. You made enough on it in was it in the 90s, Grandma? What happened?
What?
When you guys moved to Arizona?
Yeah, we moved in there in 1999.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I use that story though when one of my clients are telling me that they want to time the market and that they're just going to wait for it to crash? I'll say, well, my grandma's boss told her in 1963 that to wait because the prices are going to come down. They still haven't.
That's right. No, I mean,
it's the best thing I ever heard.
We came and we paid $73,500 for the Cerritos house, and then.
And at that time, did you think that was a lot of money, Grandma?
Well,
I wish I could buy a house for $73,000.
Yeah. And then we went to Walnut and we sold the Cerritos house for $222.
Oh yeah!
In one day.
Oh my God! In one day, Grandma, it sold. You guys
took off. Yeah. Oh yeah. It was, but I mean, I think you talk about bitcoins, housing, real estate. That's where you're making money.
Oh wow, Grandma! I had no idea this conversation was going to come wrap around like this from Bitcoin to profit. I feel very similar. I mean, I like my first love for this stuff is definitely. I mean, real estate is so primal to me. Kamel's dad, when he was still alive, God love him, he told me that he didn't even invest in the stock market. He's like, Johnny, real estate, it's real. It actually is real. That's it. And I believed him right away because I believed everything that man said because he was just that kind of guy. But I agree with you, Grandma. It is about houses in a lot of ways. I do like the diversification, and I do like cryptocurrencies and stocks and whatever else because I think that if you have the pie chart mentality with your finances, whether you have $100 to yourself or you have $1 million, it should be divvied up because that's how you, what do you call it? I forgot what the word is for it, but that's how you mitigate risk is that you go like, well, if that market goes down, chances are
the investments in this one, you should, but I think real estate is the most important one.
I do. It just sounds like
but not everybody wants a house.
No, but even if you don't want a house, I mean, I have a friend that's like, I love the place I rent and it's cheap and I love it and blah, blah, blah. And then, it's like, well, you could still invest some of your paycheck into real estate that you don't physically have to own the house yourself. You can invest with a group, the syndication.
There's all kinds of things. But, real estate and the stock market and, and some cash.
Yeah.
And who knows about the market?
No, you don't know. I mean, everything. I think the pandemic definitely put me on a reminder, a spiritual reminder that no one's in control.
Right.
Even the way you think as a child, you feel entitled to everything working out, and then you get older, you're like, I don't know if you're entitled to anything as a human being in this reality.
Well, that's what happened with Hillary.
Yeah, right. It doesn't with Hillary. We getting political, Grandma? No, I don't. I'm saying entitled to things like safety or entitled to. I mean, obviously from our people's ancestry with the Holocaust that we've endured and all the craziness, and that you could say most of humanity, right? Even every culture, the whites, you had the Celtics and the pagans. I mean, they had their own Holocaust. The Native Americans, every country you can think of, like people have just been through atrocities.
Look what the Irish went through.
Yeah.
So, and
I mean, the slave trade here is between the Irish and the people from Africa, like just atrocious, the kind of stuff that people have been through. So trying to time a market to bring it back around and trying to time real estate or saying even diversifying, you don't know any market's going to be here.
The only thing to do is not panic.
Thank you. That's a really good tip to leave everyone with.
No, it's true because I mean, we never just sold off anything in a down market. My sister did.
That's when you buy stuff is in a down market.
Yeah, but we never
it goes on sale.
Everything came back. And,
yep. But I mean, you mentioned the housing thing, which I think is just the most funny story that I'm going to incorporate into anytime someone asks me about timing the market. In the olden days, your boss and your friends saying, just wait, the prices are going to come down, and you never know. But it's also trying to time the market, not just that something's going to happen, but how it's going to happen. So, for example, there are areas in Southern California that have appreciated, I think 40% in the past couple of years, right? 2 or 3 years, like 40%, Grandma. So that number is so high. Does that mean it's going to come crashing down that much higher than other places?
No,
Not necessarily.
Look, all right, take New York, for instance.
Please
Brooklyn.
take New York.
Yeah, please take it. Bedford-Stuyvesant was a slum.
Yeah.
Now the houses are millions of dollars.
Oh, yeah.
Red Hook, where my next door neighbor comes from, also a slum. Not anymore. And, and those places are never going to go back to what they were.
I tried to tell one of my friends who's like, it's going to crash so hard. And I told him, I said, if it's going to crash 30% so that you get a 2019 price on a California home, if it's going to crash 30%, you're probably going to have such bigger problems to worry about than buying your house.
Yes.
The interest rates are probably going to go somewhere different. Who knows if if the economy crashed for long enough for you to actually go through escrow and buy a house at 30% cheaper. It's not going to happen that day that you're going to be able to buy your house with that crazy deal, right? It's going to be within 2 weeks, 2 months. So something happening where the market crashes 30% for 2 months, hypothetically, we could be in spots where, you're worried about your food supply. You're worried about your safety. You're not going to be able to get a loan from the bank. And you're going to be competing with people that have cash, that are wealthy, that have been waiting for a crazy market crash. They're like, I actually do have $600,000 just sitting cash right here. I'm going to spend it to buy those 2 houses for that price. Yeah. So.
But it's not going to be that.
I don't think so. And I hope not. And not just for not because I'm hoping people don't get a deal on something. I have a lot of clients that they can't afford to buy a house in California, and I want them to buy one, and they own properties,
so
investment stuff. They do. I mean,
they
I have clients that have properties in Tennessee. They have properties in Arizona. They have them out of here because it's too expensive to buy it here. But they want to buy something here, or they rent here, and they invest in other places.
And that's what your Uncle Scott says to me: sell your house and rent. Does that make sense?
I mean, it can, Grandma. For you, it might make sense. It's convenient to rent.
Why should I have to pay rent when my house costs me just the regular bills for the month, and I live on Social Security?
I know.
And I don't have to ask anybody for money.
No, I get that, Grandma. I think, but what Uncle Scott's saying, what he's trying to formulate for you is that you're not trying to build equity anymore.
Yeah,
as you would be in a house.
But I certainly can't get money and get interest in the bank from if I sold my house.
That's true. That's true. But what he's trying to do is change your, the priority not being your finances, Grandma, because you're old. You don't have to save for retirement. You're already there.
Right.
So you don't need to build equity in anything. If you don't have lifestyle expectations, right? You don't have a yacht. Just let this be on the record. My grandma doesn't have a yacht. You don't even have a regular boat, Grandma.
Well, yes, I do. And it's called Princess Cruises.
Oh, that's okay. But Grandma, what Uncle Scott's trying to do is solve your problem that isn't actually a real estate problem. He wants you to be closer to the family. And just so our listeners know, my grandma lives in Arizona, and we want her to move to California, actually up north by my uncle. So he's trying to tell you that to solve your problem, you don't need to hold on to the financial side of worrying about your house, that you could rent something. And I gotta say,
I would be in the same boat I'm in now, but I would.
But you'd be close to Uncle Scott. You'd be close to Joshua.
I'd be paying $15,000 to $2,000 a month rent, maybe more.
But Grandma, you'd have enough equity from your house to where you wouldn't notice it dipping.
No, I need it for the old age home.
For the old age, oh man, planning ahead.
Yeah.
The old age home. I thought we were going to drive your wheelchair off of a cliff like they did in that episode of Dinosaurs.
Well, that could be. Or maybe I'll do it myself.
Oh, we could go together, Grandma. Just wait for me. I'll be there.
I'm waiting for Grandpa to come and hold out his hand.
Oh my gosh. Waiting for Grandpa to hold out his hand. That's a very beautiful a scenario.
Well, he will. He came one time. I had this dream. He stood there and held the door open, and it wouldn't go through.
Oh.
Because I knew I wouldn't wake up the next morning.
You stuck around to raise your great grandkids, I'm hoping?
No, listen, hey, I just feel terrible that he never got to see them. And when you called that day and said Liz was pregnant, with the Isaac, and I tried to tell him, I couldn't get through to him.
Yeah.
So it's a shame what he missed, and it's a shame Bubby and Zeta missed out on this because they would have been wild.
But we were also lucky to have everyone here that long. I mean, think of speaking of Grandpa, think of Grandpa's dad died at 28. He got cancer at 28. And,
And Grandpa
not only did I
was 4
not
years
get,
old.
not only, yeah, I was gonna say, not only did I not get to meet him, Grandpa barely got to meet his dad. If his dad died when he was 4, and Grandpa's one of those people. When I think of people that had a hard life,
she lost her father a year later.
Grandpa's mom,
Bubby's mom.
Oh yeah,
and I think he was only 56.
I mean, yeah, I mean, so as much as it sucks that Grandpa isn't here to meet, my kids and Bubby and Zeta aren't here to meet my kids and all that stuff. We did get to have Grandpa for a long time compared to how long Grandpa even got to have his ancestors.
And you were so close to him.
Oh yeah, Grandpa was great. He was funny.
Sergeant Bilko.
Oh man. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely tough, but I don't know. I feel like it's hard to know like how to put it into words, but I don't like to personify like spirits or whatnot and say that like, Grandpa's floating around watching us, but there is like an awareness that like our ancestors, like all of life it still goes because there's nowhere for it to go. Like awareness is just there. Yeah. And so and
he's around, he knows what's going on. I mean, they're all around watching those kids.
Just watching everyone, but not having to. Can you imagine being a ghost and being annoyed with how loud and annoying the kids are? Like, do these kids ever shut up? I just want to help. You can't put your hands over your ears because they're ghost hands. So you're just like, oh.
Oh, boy. Oh, yeah, but the way that you guys used to fight in the back of the car.
Oh, yeah.
And Grandpa would say, you better stop it or I'll leave you off on the freeway.
And we believed him because we were kids.
And you know what? One of the women, and in our group, in her 80s, and she's 89 now, and she would try to tell one of the men where to go, how to go, and he threatened to leave her off.
Yeah. I tell my kids, I'll be like, all right, you guys ready? If you don't stop this, we're going to the fire station and drop you off.
Oh, at least you're going to drop them off at the fire station.
Yeah, as opposed to Grandpa saying, well, that's how the generations, we filter it out. We get a little nicer every generation. Grandpa was just going to leave us anywhere. I'll just leave my kids at the fire station where they're at least safe with the firefighters to keep them safe, raise them.
But look, nothing can take away the time we had with you two.
We spent a ton of time with you guys, Grandma. Oh my God.
Oh yeah, a ton.
And that's what I'm talking about. I was lucky. Josh and I were lucky to have you guys that long because you guys and Bubby and Zeta, all 4 of our grandparents were alive through our whole childhood.
Yeah.
Through our whole teenage lives.
Yeah.
Yes, it sucks that none of them are alive weddings, now to see the grandparents. Except for Joshua's wedding. But yeah, you guys were all there for my wedding. Nobody.
Well, that's all. The other ones.
But you were at Joshua's wedding.
Oh yeah.
Well, Grandma, that's what I'm saying. It's like you're still here.
Grandpa.
You're actually that's
okay. I was the only one that was here at Joshua's wedding.
Do you feel the weight of responsibility being like the family elder now, Grandma? That like when I tell you like you can't die,
just that,
you have to stay alive.
It's sad that they're not here, and I know how they would have felt. All of them, they would have been gone crazy over the kids.
Oh, I know.
But I'm here, and I got a lecture from Joshua on his wedding day.
That it's your responsibility to stick around.
Yeah.
I know, Grandma, because sometimes I think there's, especially in Western culture, there's this like feeling because we're so obsessed with careers and work. But once you get to a certain age, it's like, what are you going to do? But, if you look at Indian people and you look at just a lot of people in Asia or like in actually Eastern European people that are still over there and Latin people, they all have their grandparents around and they're an important part of the family. They are there for wisdom, they cook, they help with the kids, like they're part of the team. And so that's why Joshua gives you that. And that's why I always tell you that you have a responsibility to stick around, Grandma, because I have nobody else that's old in my bloodline that I can call and be like, hey, what's the deal with this?
And unfortunately, there's nothing wrong with me.
You're so funny, Grandma. You're such a dark comedian. Did everyone hear that? Unfortunately, there's nothing wrong.
Yeah, because I want your grandpa.
You're so funny.
So, but
I know, Grandma.
It's and none of you kids are close, and that's it's hard.
That we're 5 hours away, 6 hours away.
Yeah. Well, listen, you're all so busy.
I mean, it is difficult. That's, again, I guess you're proving the case, Grandma. You need to sell your house and come back out over here and be by us because, everyone's busy, but we want you around.
I know.
And whenever you're here, it's great. And like, isn't it great to see how
but
Oliver...
I can't even pick up the kids.
Physically?
Physically.
No, you don't need to pick anyone up, Grandma.
Oh, yeah.
It's just being around.
He asked me yesterday, pick me up.
Oh, yeah. He's learning though. He's 3. He doesn't know that you're.
Yeah, I know. He doesn't know that I'm a weakling.
That's right. I tell him to be gentle to you and mom and dad. I'm like, don't pull too hard at Papa's arms. They'll pop off like a character in Beetlejuice.
Well, it's true. You can't pull an arm out of place.
He pulls his arm out of the socket.
That little one.
Oh yeah, he's a little butterball. He's the fat German.
He wants to know everything. Why this? What this?
That's awesome. That's the natural curiosity.
Yeah.
Kids are philosophers, scientists.
But he's not shy about asking.
No, not at all. Not at all. He reminds me. He's a lot like Liz's dad. He's a really funny, like just like a fat little German dude that just is confident to just ask you the dumbest, silliest questions, and he's silly in every way. He makes the same faces as her dad too. It's so funny. Oh my God. Yeah. But I'm so glad that you're around, Grandma, and they get to see you. And as they're getting older, they're asking about you. And I was telling them, oh, great grandma's coming, and they're like, Grandma's coming, and they're all excited about it. And then
but they decided this time that they like me.
Well, they just they're so young, Grandma. There's some of them they're slow to warm. It takes them a time to like be like, what's your deal? And they don't have any social like skills like adults do. Where it's like,
of course not.
Just have manners, and eventually, you'll probably like that person. Instead, at their age, they're like, I don't like you. Do you have any candy? Okay, I like you. Like,
yeah, but Isaac says that I'm not family because I don't live here.
What a little asshole! So funny. Grandma. So, if you had to design a fantasy house, like in a magical world, like with any technology you want, any kind of magic you want, basically anything your heart desires, the way you could design the house, the shape of it. You always were the cook of the family when we were kids. You would always make all this food, and how to do all the stuff. Your way around the kitchen, as we call it. What I say? That's someone who knows their way around the kitchen. I imagine what your fantasy house would be like. And you and Grandpa always had great taste too. And I think you were the only one in our family that really did like notice like interior design, like you would coordinate stuff,
Yeah.
Like Bubby and Zeta were good at like their own like old Jewish people style, but which is great. I mean, I loved their house and grew up enjoying it. But you and Grandpa always had like taste, like, you know what I mean? You would know like, oh, that carpet goes with that. You wouldn't just pick the thing you'd pick stuff like with intention, and which I love that. And I still love the
anybody
colors.
Who comes into the house, I say, your house is beautiful.
Yeah.
One realtor, he calls me up, well, he says, your house is not stunning. I said, oh,
Give me his number, Grandma. I'd love to call him.
Everybody comes in here and says, oh, how beautiful.
I'd love to give me his number. I'd love to call him. Hey, you son of a bitch. Call him my grandma and tell her she doesn't have a stunning house.
He comes back to look. He ain't getting the list.
Oh, God, that's so funny.
Oh, God. But no, a home was very important to us.
Yeah.
And you were part of it.
I love it. I mean, I still am fond of like the sky blue colors that you have. I mean, Joshua painted the downstairs office is painted that color.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, it's like Grandma and Grandpa's house, like perfect. And you guys would have just cool, like mid-century, like your chairs, like the spinny chairs that was it velour on top or whatever, like just really cool stuff like that. And to me, that stuff is so important because it's an atmosphere. When I was a kid, and speaking of hanging out with you guys, when we go to Disneyland, when you're a kid, you're in awe because it's something weird to be taken out of like one zone and into another zone. It makes you feel different. The sounds, the smells, the textures, and the light.
But when we took you to Disneyland, you got scared.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
Because they turned the lights on and I think the water on, and we had to leave that,
Oh my God. Wait, you had to leave Disneyland because of me getting scared?
Well, not this, but we had to leave that exhibit.
Oh, that's right. That sounds like me still.
Oh, God,
I still can't even go into a horror movie in the
we
theater.
We go there because we couldn't get in before 6:00, and you would stand there and say, I waited long enough.
I said that?
Yes, you did.
That sounds exactly like Oliver. Oliver would say that. I waited long enough. He has this thing where he comes up to us and he goes, and we'll be like, all right, that's it. It's time to go, or it's time for dinner, or it's time for a bath, whatever it is. He'll just say, just give me one. He holds up his finger too, and he'll squint and he'll be like, just one more minute. Just one. He's such a little funny salesperson. Oh, you just reminded me of that.
They're so cute.
But what I was getting at though, Grandma, is that with your house, you guys you were able to do stuff in whatever houses you lived in. You would have like, it would feel like something like, and there's something about the cohesiveness of like how you hung up the stuff on the wall, where you left space, where you didn't. And I always love that. So I have this, imagination of like what your fantasy house would look like. But
well, my house is only missing one thing.
I know what you're going to say.
So, but that's it. But otherwise, I haven't changed a thing.
It's only missing one thing, Grandma.
Yep. You know what that is, or who that is.
Are you gonna make me say it? You're the guest on the show,
I
Grandma.
say it. We're only missing your grandpa. That's it.
Yeah.
And he loved that house.
He did, and he I mean, yeah, he did. He loved it. You guys loved every house he lived in, though, Grandma. You treated them all great.
One time he wanted, we were in New Zealand.
Yeah.
So he wanted to move to New Zealand. So I said, you'll be too far from everybody. I said, how about Arizona? Okay.
New Zealand or Arizona?
He just wanted me to stop working, that's all.
I mean,
Which if I would have been in California, I'd still be working.
I mean, you worked your whole career.
Yeah, but I liked it.
What was your day-to-day life like, Grandma? You were administrative assistant?
No. I worked for one lawyer.
It was Bob.
But Bob,
yeah. I know Bob.
And, I did a lot of stuff. I even sometimes interviewed clients.
Yeah.
And sometimes I did tax returns and, I did a lot.
You're like a paralegal, like a business, what do you call it?
I never was a paralegal. But
no, but I mean, like, that's kind of like what that's like. You just did.
Yeah, I did it. And when I left one time, I spoke to his son, who I raised in the office.
Yeah.
And I said, how is Sandy, the new one, working out? He said, oh, she's all right. He says, but my dad doesn't want anybody but you.
Oh, yeah. Well, how long did you work for him?
22 years.
Oh, my gosh, yeah. Once you have a team like that, you just...
And you came to the office, too? I
remember.
Yeah, and he gave you $1.
Oh, my God, that's so funny. He's the one who got me hooked on money. That guy gave me $1. That's so funny. And then Grandpa worked at, was it Smith? Was that the name of the company?
Yeah, Smith Tool.
Smith Tool. Forklift driving Grandpa. Every time I see a forklift, I think of Grandpa. That's for damn sure.
Yeah. Well, he was ready to go back that first week.
Yeah.
He said, because I was in the pool. We lived in, an apartment and they had a pool there.
Yeah.
And I was in the pool. And when I came up, he says, I'm going to go back. He says, would you stay? You're having a good time. And I said, no, if you go back, I go back.
What?
But
whoa. Go back from where?
Go back to New York because he was working and his arm was killing him from that forklift.
Oh, from doing the steering thing that you
whatever,
do? Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And then he got used to it and he loved it. Because he would be giving everybody work and.
So let's imagine your fantasy house. It's got that one thing. It's got Grandpa in it. And he's got a fun little forklift toy to mess around on. I can imagine that at the fantasy house. Grandpa driving a forklift around in a small little like a tiny like.
And I'd like my dogs back.
Oh my God, Grandma! The title of this episode is going to be Grandma's House of it's like an Edgar Allan Poe thing. It's because all of the loved ones that you've lost are all living at this house.
Yeah.
You want your dogs back there, Grandma?
Yep. I want my
Tabitha. I remember Tabitha.
Everybody remembers.
She used to bite me. I remember when she bit through my foot when I was a little kid, and everyone freaked out.
Oh God, she was impossible. She was one monster. I had 3 dogs and 1 monster.
She was the monster.
She was a monster.
I remember she tried to bite through my cowboy boots. I had and I still have them up in my closet up there.
Oh yeah,
my little cowboy. I was like a 4-year-old or 5-year-old with Kenny Rogers boots, and I remember her biting through. And then let's see, there's Tabitha, and then after Tabitha, Samantha,
and then Nicole.
Grandma, has anyone ever told you that you named all of your dogs after high-class prostitutes of the 90s?
Prostitutes?
I'm just joking. Well, that does sound like a group of prostitutes. Samantha, Tabitha, and Nicole
was named for Bewitched.
Oh, okay.
And Nicole was she was a little Nicole. She was so pretty.
I love it, Grandma. That's so funny.
Yeah.
And Nicole was pretty.
It was a good life. It was really good life. We had you guys.
Yeah.
You guys around the corner.
Are you going to ever have another dog?
I don't know.
Or cat?
It's just that.
Cats are easy.
No, I don't want a cat.
Whoa. Are you not cat person?
I'm not a cat person.
Grandma, but you saw Stinky and Smushy Booshy.
I know, but
they love you.
Yeah. Dogs are like human beings. They understand so much.
Oh yeah.
And they really,
You realize the cats are here when you say that right now. They're like,
Bridget, one time, I had an argument with Grandpa before he went to work.
Yeah.
We always argued about where we would live because, and I lay down on the bed crying, and the dog comes over and she's like, don't cry, I'm here, It's, a
That's
cat
so
won't
sweet.
do that.
No, they will. Oh my gosh. No.
They will.
Oh, Bushi does that. I mean, after when we got married, I had like an anxiety attack just because it was like a big life experience,
Yeah.
and I was sitting there in our apartment going through all the cards people had given us, like the gifts, and I think they gave us, like, we ended up with like $2,000 or $3,000, and people just get, here's $200 here, 100, you know what I mean? It was like an overwhelming feeling of like all these people like doing that was like kind of like, oh my goodness, like you just don't even, you don't even know what to say because people are doing that to you, and you're like, it's like a thankful feeling and like I feeling indebted, and it's like crazy that my life's going by, like, oh my God, I'm getting married. Like I feel like I was just a little boy, like, wandering around a soccer field or something like that, and all of a sudden I'm getting married, and I was so panicked and just sitting there. I don't know if I said anything to anybody. I was just sitting there in my head going like, when you're behind your face, but you're screaming. But the outside world is just you sitting there smiling. So I was doing that, and Bushi sensed it. And, of course, I don't know what they're sensing. They're animals. I'm not sure without linguistics what the hell they're thinking. But he came over to me like specifically in a certain way and stood on my lap in a certain way, truly like to calm me down. I just knew what was going on there. And I was just like, what? Like this guy, and as if our bond wasn't already solid for, I think we lived together for a year or two before that. But he was just, I was like, he's like a dog. He's like a little golden retriever.
But a dog understands language. A cat may, but it will never really acknowledge it.
Well, that's the thing that's funny about cats is because they have a dry sense of humor, and they're kind of like it's deadpan. Like a dog, a lot of dogs almost smile at you when their tongue comes out, but like cats don't smile at you. So they can do the dumbest thing and they look at you 100% with a straight face. Yeah. So there's something that is still really funny about the way the cats do it. It's just like people.
Yeah. And especially if they live with a family, they're just,
I love them both. I don't know, Grandma, but for you, if you wouldn't have another dog, or if you wouldn't have another cat, would you have another dog?
I would like to, but 8:00 I fall asleep on the couch, and I get up at 10 to go to bed, and so I don't have to go out and when I'm half asleep and walk a dog.
Oh, you mean like potty training for them and go for a walk? Oh, okay.
And training is not easy. I mean, Bridget, my poodle, who you didn't know,
but I know of. I remember Bridget.
Easy
also
to
another
train.
another high class prostitute name. Yeah.
Very easy to train.
Yeah.
But the others were all 7 months.
Yeah.
And it's hard.
Yeah, that's I'm sure I'll get another dog at some point as well. And that's something that comes across my mind. We're like, would I go to the pound and get something that's a little bit older, already trained, or would I get
You could get a rescue dog.
I know.
Which is trained.
Which is already trained. Yeah. But I also do like when, I don't know if you ever see like German Shepherd babies, I think there's a German Shepherd rescue.
Yeah, but they're what happens with German Shepherds, they become very protective around kids. And
is that bad?
Because I remember my sister's, she didn't let anybody near those kids, and she was, growling and.
Oh, like it might hurt other kids. Oh, I see.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, we have some people that have German Shepherds in our family that, or like German Shepherd lab mixes, or
lab is supposed to be a very good dog.
Oh, they are. They are.
And
so if you have a mix of that and German Shepherd, those are really good.
Talking about big ones,
Liz's parents' dog Harry was a German Shepherd lab mix, or a golden. I don't know if he's a golden retriever or a retriever German Shepherd mix. He was like the friendliest, best, smartest, lovingest dog ever. So what would you have then, Grandma, if you have a new dog?
I'd get another Shih Tzu.
Another Shih Tzu. Another little Ewok.
They're lazy.
So they don't stress you out. Yeah, they just want to hang out.
They're very lazy.
So lay on a couch and smoke CBD blunts with Grandma.
Yep.
All right, Grandma. So you've got all of your dogs throughout your life wandering around this house. Grandpa's there driving around a forklift in his little
not in the house.
No, he'll have the house will have like a mini warehouse, like the size of maybe 3,000 square feet warehouse that he can just drive the forklift around. Mm-hmm. And he can also build his little model ships.
No, that he must do. Forget about the forklift.
He would rather
just the models.
Model ships, Grandpa building. What would you have, Grandma? What would be your fun?
Me?
Would you have just a killer kitchen? I feel like you'd have an awesome kitchen if you had a fantasy house.
Well, see, you can't tell me right now. I've given up cooking because it's very hard to cook for one.
That's what I'm saying, Grandma. You need some weed.
Yeah,
you just need to get stoned in Arizona, and you'll be cooking by yourself.
I don't know what I like to travel. That's about what I like to do. So I like the cruises. They're good for lazy people.
So if you had a fantasy house, it could be connected to a port.
Yeah,
They have private port. with a cruise ship that could take you
Yeah.
anywhere, however you want.
Yeah.
And you'd have the king and queen suite.
Yep.
The presidential suite for Grandma going anywhere. Okay, where would you go on your first cruise, Grandma, if you could go on right now?
Oh, let's see. I went to Greece a couple of years ago.
Was that the last one you went to?
Yeah. But I went with my friends.
Yeah.
You know, it was a little different.
Yeah.
But
was that the first cruise without Grandpa?
Huh?
Was that the first cruise without Grandpa? Oh yeah.
Yeah. But I was going to go to Antarctica with my brother. So, you know, I called the agent, and I was going to book it.
Yeah.
And a friend of his who we were on a cruise with, her husband died, and she was going to go with me.
Yeah.
So, you know, then I decided I'd have to go to Buenos Aires. Coming home.
Yeah.
I'd have to go to Buenos Aires.
Okay.
Fly back, make a stop, and I don't know if, you know, I would have to change planes or anything. And, you know, it's at least a 13-hour flight.
Yeah.
And then I have to come back and get bags and go looking for the car and all that and stuff. And I fall into that. I don't know if I could take it.
Did you sound like me, Grandma? Sometimes some of these things have so many steps to them that I was like, I'm just not even going to do it. We'll just all you got to do to make this is just these 25 steps. Like, yeah, I got to go.
Yeah, no, but usually it would be nothing. But now, you know, I don't know. I think it would be too much. So I decided, you know, not to go. And a few days later, they canceled the cruise.
They canceled. Was this during the pandemic or when the pandemic started?
Not too long ago.
Oh, okay.
A few months ago.
So, but in your fantasy world, where would you go on this next cruise then? And imagine that's not inconvenient.
I would go to Antarctica.
All right.
So, you know, I always wanted to see that.
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
Yeah, it does. It is. So,
is there another company that has an Antarctica trip that's not as much of a pain in the butt to go on?
Well, no, the traveling, it's too much because you're coming back from there. You know, it's especially alone.
Yeah. There's no way around it being a pain in the ass, basically.
No, that's...
Well, in the fantasy world, you get to go to Antarctica on this cruise ship that's parked outside.
I get my energy back.
That's right. Everyone's got a caffeine drip in Grandma's fantasy world. We've all got the energy. Grandma, I have energy and I don't like hassles. So when it gets too hassly, I'm just like, juice is really called the juice is not worth the squeeze sometimes, you know. And I feel you. So it's not just you, Grandma. Man, it's such a cool fantasy house. Okay, so just for the last thing, Grandma, before we exit your fantasy house, imagine that you were back in the kitchen cooking for this fantasy house, for this episode, like we were filming it like a TV show, like a Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous, where you're like inviting me as the host into your house. Like it's your grandson's here with the film crew and you are sitting in your fantasy house and you're going to make us a meal in your fantasy kitchen. And it could be any meal, anything you want for you and me to eat, like on screen on the show. What would it be?
How about shrimp with sausage?
Shrimp with sausage sounds delicious.
It is.
That sounds great. Is it just the shrimp and sausage, or does it have like vegetables with it, or how do you make that?
Oh,
how does one prepare?
It's really easy. I get the roller sausage.
Yeah.
And and frozen shrimp.
Yeah.
And you brown the sausage, then you put in the shrimp. No, you don't put in the shrimp. Right? You put in tomatoes. Cut up diced tomatoes.
Yeah. And
a little bit of water. I forgot already. And you let that cook for a while, and then you put the shrimp in. And just
and the shrimp soaks up all the flavor of the sausage?
Yeah, the shrimp is already really cooked. It just has to heat up.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's a delicious dish, and it's not, That
sounds good for you, too. Low carb, high protein, high flavor. Or you could have linguine with it, I guess, if you wanted to. But I would just have it in a bowl.
Oh, no, I made rice with it.
Rice? Okay.
Serve it over rice if you want.
Oh, well, if for those of you not watching your carbs, serve it over rice. Oh, Flo's linguine and shrimp. Oh, my gosh. Grandma. This is so awesome. I'm like, what do you call it? Like invigorated, just imagining your fantasy house and hanging out with Grandpa and all the fun stuff that we could do there, going on a cruise.
Yeah.
Just in my mind. This is why I make this podcast. It's just kind of like to enjoy it.
We did it.
Experiment it.
Went on cruises
you did it
with us.
How many cruises did you and Grandpa go on?
27.
27 cruises. Man, you guys were so... I guess if we're going to leave this podcast, I mean, so many things to end this on, but like you had even mentioned like how hard it is for young people to buy a house today, right?
Yeah.
And I know the economy is different than it was when you were young, but you and Grandpa didn't have it easy. You had both what we consider like jobs that were like not high paying, fancy jobs, right? And you guys were smart with your money. You didn't waste money on anything. I remember you guys were super frugal when I was a kid. And so even though you weren't making a ton of money, you didn't have a large amount of inheritance or anything like that, you guys you didn't complain. You just like, were like, how do we make this happen? And you guys got to travel the way, like some rich people don't even have time to travel 27 cruises in their life. But you guys made that happen when Grandpa drove a freaking forklift. Yeah. You didn't have fancy cars. You didn't spend money on a bunch of toys and other stuff. But like when you guys wanted to travel and you had a nice house, I mean, it's super inspiring.
What else do you need?
I mean, different people got different needs, Grandma, but honestly, like seeing how you guys did it, I think is, it could be something taken away by young people listening. And I know there's other old people listening, like my friend Paul Daddy Bird. He's probably just a little bit younger than you guys, but there are young people who listen to this podcast too. And I just hope it inspires them. And I hope after you guys listen to this episode, you call your grandma or your grandpa or whoever the elder is in your family, or even just an elder that's in your tribe. Doesn't even have to be a blood relative, just someone you love that you look up to. Tell them that you love them. Find out about their life. Enjoy it. Really appreciate you doing this, Grandma. It's freaking awesome. Say bye to the guest, Grandma.
Bye, guys.
Love you, Grandma.